Hi guys, welcome! In this video, we'll dive into the detailed skill analysis of Thor, the newest hero class coming this month in ROM. The God of Thunder, Thor, is a melee physical skill damage dealer that can inflict massive amounts of wind element damage to nearby enemies, mainly with his hammer called Mjolnir. We already had a first look at Thor in one of my previous videos. This time, we'll explore his skill mechanics and analyze his pros and cons in both PvE and PvP. Alright, without further ado, let's begin. First, let's take a look at Thor's core passive skill called Thors Arrival. With this skill, Thor's sentient hammer known as Mjolnir will always help him during battle. Whenever he is channeling a skill, Mjolnir will inflict a considerable amount of wind element physical damage to one random enemy within 8 meters every 0.7 seconds. Thor has 3 channeling skills. One is offensive, one is a damage buff, and one is for sustain. So even if Thor is just channeling his healing skill, Mjolnir will still deal damage in the background. They all have a channeling time of 5 seconds and thus can inflict up to 7 instances of damage. When his core passive reaches level 4, Thor can use other non-channeling hero class skills while in channeling status. Thor has 4 non-channeling skills which he can release while channeling. I think this is the minimum core passive level you should achieve to be able to play Thor effectively. After the core passive reaches level 7, Thor's channeling skills cannot be interrupted. This means he can maintain his channeling status even if he's inflicted with abnormal statuses and negative effects. In addition, the attack interval of Mjolnir will be shortened to 0.5 seconds, thereby increasing his instances of damage to 10. Thus, it's a must-reach max core passive to have higher damage potential. Next, let's take a look at his passive skills. First is Unstable Current, which is a natural passive that causes the damage dealt by Thor to fluctuate at random values within a certain range, introducing an element of unpredictability to Thor's damage potential. The lower limit of the fluctuation range is 50%, and every 10 points of luck will increase it by 1%. This means that allotting points on luck will be crucial for increasing his base damage. Meanwhile, the upper limit of the fluctuation range is 300%, and every 10 points of strength will increase it by 1%. Hence, strength will not only boost his raw physical attack, but also his max damage potential. The random damage fluctuations create a surprise factor, making it challenging for opponents to predict Thor's exact damage output. I think it's also a good balancing mechanism for Thor to prevent him from becoming too overpowered. Second is Supercharge, which is a debuff applied on the enemy when Thor deals wind element damage. The charge debuff lasts for 10 seconds, which can stack up to 5 times. When multiple enemies with charge debuff are close to each other, they will be electrocuted and lose certain amount of HP and SP per second depending on Thor's luck stat and amount of charge stacks on the target. And with this S rune, the charge debuff will also increase the variable cast time of the enemy. Supercharge also has a synergistic effect with his non-channeling skills, which we'll discuss later. And last is Divine Power, which is a natural passive that prevents Thor's weapons from being stripped and destroyed. This ensures a consistent damage output from Thor, especially in PvP. Next, let's look at Thor's channeling skills. The gameplay of Thor is somewhat similar to Gunslinger's Carnage Capoeira, where you can move while channeling skills, dealing damage to nearby enemies. Pressing the skill again will stop the channeling. First is the Power of Thunder, which increases Thor's wind element damage by 10% and wind elemental counter coefficient by 0.1 for each second of channeling. Thus, after the 5-second channeling period, he'll gain a total of 50% wind element damage and 0.5% wind element counter coefficient. And with this S rune, Thor can additionally get up to 50 points of strength and luck, giving a substantial boost to Thor's damage output. It's easy to maintain this buff as it lasts for 60 seconds and has a cooldown of 15 seconds and cannot be dispelled. Next is 10,000 Thunder, which is a channeling attack skill. Thor generates 2 arcs per second, which increases by 1 for each second of channeling. Thus, within 5 seconds, it will deal a total of 20 instances of damage, with each arc dealing wind element physical damage to one random enemy within 8 meters. And with a max core passive skill, the total instances of damage is increased by 10, dealing multiple instances of damage. His third and last channeling skill is Divine Resonance, which restores 10% of his max HP and max SP every second, recovering half of his HP and SP bar after the 5-second channeling time. Aside from healing, this skill also reduces the cooldown of all his skills by up to 10 seconds. Thus, Thor has a way to sustain himself in battle and to adjust the rotation of his skills. Lastly, let's take a look at his non-channeling skills. These skills can be released under channeling status when his core passive reaches level 4. First is Storm Trial, which is Thor's main burst damage skill. When Thor releases this skill, it inflicts a massive amount of wind element physical damage to up to 10 enemies in a super large area around himself. With this star rune, its damage can increase by up to 50% for each stack of charge debuff on the target. At the same time, this skill can cause extra damage to enemies in hiding and remove their hiding status. For a short period, the enemies within the range will not be able to re-enter hiding status. Storm Trial has a very long cooldown, so it's better to just manually cast it when needed. Next is Billion Lightning, which is a two-phase attack and displacement skill. During the first phase, Thor throws Mjolnir to a designated area, dealing wind element physical damage to all enemies on the path. Mjolnir will also detonate all charge debuff stacks on enemies on the path, with each stack dealing 50% HP loss damage. While on the ground, Mjolnir will deal additional wind element physical damage every second to all enemies within 4 meters, and this can be further increased with this star rune. For its second phase, if you use the skill again within 5 seconds, Thor will turn into a lightning ball and dash towards Mjolnir, dealing additional damage to enemies on its path. Hence, it's recommended to throw the hammer behind the boss so that you can deal damage to the target when dashing. Next is Lightning Gravity, which is Thor's main crowd control skill. By summoning the power of lightning, Thor can generate a sphere of lightning in a designated area, pulling all enemies towards the center of the area. At the same time, the impact of lightning gravity will significantly reduce enemies' attack and casting range, as well as their movement speed cap. The duration of lightning gravity's crowd control and negative effects will increase by 1 second for each stack of charge debuff on the enemy. It has very good utility in PvE as it can gather all monsters in one spot, including MVP bosses. And last is Storm Barrier, which is Thor's main defensive buff skill. It grants an HP shield for Thor that can absorb damage equivalent to 30% of his max HP. The base shield value can increase to up to 50% with this S rune. This shield is undispellable and will not be removed even when the shield value is 0. Thor can recharge the shield by dealing damage, wherein 10% of the damage he deals is converted into a shield that is stackable. Thus, as long as he's continuously dishing out damage, he has some form of safety against his enemies. Aside from absorbing damage, the Storm Barrier shield can also enhance Thor's wind element damage reduction by 30% and convert all non-wind element damage received into wind element because of the elemental sensing passive skill. This means that by simply using a Dokebi card, Thor alloy, Hurricane immunity alloy, and the Heal's Wing ancient relic, he will be really tanky. He can have good survivability without sacrificing too much offensive items. This buff lasts for 20 seconds and has a cooldown of 24 seconds, so it will only be down for 4 seconds, but it can have 100% uptime as its cooldown can be reduced by Divine Resonance, Saint's Suffragam Sacrifice Ode, and CD Reduction gears. To summarize, Thor offers a lot of strengths both in PvE and PvP. First, Thor has an impressive damage-dealing capability even without his expensive plus 15 weapon. His offensive skills possesses high physical attack multiplier and rapid attack frequency, and his damage fluctuation passive can reach an average boost of 220%. Despite most instances having high wind reduction, Thor's The Power of Thunder buff can offset this limitation, allowing him to dish out substantial damage on monsters. Second, Thor can be really tanky with Storm Barrier's shield without sacrificing too much offensive items. Just focus on boosting wind damage reduction stat and use the following items to be able to stay longer in battle. Although he has no anti-fatal skill, he can survive much better than regular drop classes that don't have any innate damage reduction. He also has some sustain while channeling Divine Resonance, but it will reduce his damage potential. And third, Thor's lightning gravity offers great value for him and his team as it can gather monsters in PvE dungeons or a crowd of players in GVG into one spot. This skill synergizes well with his offensive skills as well as his teammates' AoE skills such as Genesis' rechargeable incendiary gun and Rev Grease's Blade of Order. Lightning gravity ensures that each AoE attack hits every monster consistently, leading to an overall improvement in the team's performance, especially in Echoing Corridor and White Star Airship. But of course, there are still disadvantages. First, his gameplay mechanics is quite different as you cannot simply smash one button to attack. Some players who are used to the auto mechanics may find it awkward or troublesome to use a combination of channeling and non-channeling skills. You will also need to move manually to ensure that your target does not leave your AoE attack range. Second, he lacks the hit correction that Thanatos and Holgren have, which means he needs more dex investment against high fleet players in PvP and GVG. However, hit is usually not a problem in PvE as MVPs have low flee. And third, while the unpredictability of his core passives targeting and unstable currents damage fluctuations can be appealing, the inconsistency and potential for suboptimal performance may be disadvantageous in certain scenarios. Some players may find the randomness frustrating, which can impact the overall satisfaction of playing Thor. Overall, Thor's skill set is pretty balanced, both in PvE and PvP. How about you guys? Will you be playing Thor in the future? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll also be releasing a full guide on his PvE DPS build in another video, so stay tuned for that. Alright, that's it for this video guys. Don't forget to like if you enjoyed watching this guide. If you're new here, I would love you to consider subscribing by hitting the subscribe button down below. I would love to have you back. Thank you for watching and see you in our next episode.